Black single mom texted a stranger. White CEO replied, and it changed everything. Subscribe to the channel for more stories. Asha Brooks had no intention of messaging a billionaire. Her only goal was for her son to stop crying. It was deep into the night, that cold, hollow hour when the city outside seemed to be holding its breath. Asha sat on the floor of her tiny apartment kitchen, knees pulled to her chest with a threadbare baby blanket draped over her shoulders. The lights were out, not by choice, but because the utility company offered no extensions for sympathy. From the bedroom, Micah's cries echoed, his bottle having been filled with more water than formula tonight. Asha's gaze avoided the empty formula can on the counter. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone, her thumb hovering over her brother's contact. Ben had helped her before, not with joy, but he had helped. She hated asking again, but this night wasn't about her pride. It was about her baby, whose stomach ached with a hunger he couldn't understand. She typed, "Ben, I'm so sorry to bother you again. I need $50 for formula." Micah was almost out. She'd get paid on Friday and would pay him back immediately. "Please." Her thumb shook as she pressed send. She didn't bother to double-check the number or even glance at the name. She simply set the phone down, rested her forehead on her knees, and waited. 5 minutes later, her phone buzzed. "I think you intended for that message to go to someone else." Asha blinked, sat up, and snatched the phone, her eyes widening in horror. One wrong digit. She had texted a complete stranger. Her stomach plummeted. "I'm so incredibly sorry," she typed quickly. "Please disregard." Wrong number. She locked the screen, tossed the phone aside, and pulled the blanket tighter, adding another failure to the growing pile. 3 blocks away, from the top floor of a penthouse that gazed down on half the city, Grayson Wolf stared at the message on his private phone. He never gave this number out. No press, no assistance, only family, and that list had become shorter with each passing year. The text wasn't spam or a scam. It was raw, achingly real. He looked at the message again, reading the story between the lines. Micah was almost out. "I get paid Friday." It wasn't just a request for money. It was a mother negotiating with her own dignity. Most nights, he would have ignored it. He should have. Instead, he typed back, "Is your baby going to be okay?" Asha stared at the reply. What kind of person follows up like that? Her first impulse was to block him, but there was something about the simple, direct question that made her hesitate. "We'll manage," she wrote. "Sorry again. I can help," came the immediate response. "No strings," she scoffed out loud. "Thanks, but I don't accept money from strangers." "Smart policy," he replied. "I am Grayson." "Now I'm not a stranger," she didn't answer. She rocked her mixed-race son, Micah, back to sleep, his soft curls damp against her cheek. She cried silently, with the kind of grief that came not just from being broke, but from the bone-deep exhaustion of being broke. Then she did something she never imagined she would. She sent him her Venmo. 3 seconds later, her phone buzzed again. $5,000 received from Grayson Wolf. Asha sat frozen. She blinked twice, opened the app, and checked again. $5,000. "This is too much," she typed. "I only needed $50. It's already yours," he wrote back. "No catch. One less thing for you to worry about." She hadn't cried when she was laid off. She hadn't cried when they repossessed her car. She hadn't cried when Micah's father vanished after learning she was pregnant. But this kindness from a phantom in her phone, broke her. Her hand shook. "Thank you," she managed. "I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "Just take care of Micah." And then she noticed it. She had never told him her son's name. Asha couldn't sleep. Even after Micah finally drifted off, his full belly slowing his breathing into tiny, peaceful puffs. She sat wide awake on the edge of her mattress, holding her phone as if it might disappear. She reread the transfer screen. $5,000. It was still there, still real. For a long time, she just looked at it, daring to believe this wasn't some elaborate scam, some bait for a darker purpose. This man who called himself Grayson didn't have a quiet plan to collect the debt later, did he? People didn't just send thousands of dollars to strangers. At least, they never had to her. She opened their chat again, scrolling back to that last message. "Just take care of Micah." No emojis, No hesitation, just simple certainty. That's what scared her the most. How certain he seemed, as if this was normal. She typed a message, deleted it, then typed and deleted again. Finally, she wrote, "You didn't have to do that." A moment passed, then another. Her phone stayed dark. She exhaled slowly, almost relieved. Maybe he had moved on. Maybe this was a one-time fluke. The phone buzzed. "I know I didn't. I wanted to." Across the city, Grayson Wolf leaned back in a leather chair that had never once felt comfortable. He was still in the office. He always stayed late, not because of work, but because home hadn't felt like home in a long time. He shut down that thought. The glass walls of his penthouse office reflected the skyline like a cold, expensive, empty painting. His phone buzzed again. "Why would you help someone like me? You don't even know me." He stared at her words for longer than he should have. Most people who messaged him wanted something: partnerships, investments, favors, influence. This was the first time in a very long time someone had simply asked why he cared. So he told her a part of the truth. "Because once, someone helped me when they didn't have to." I've never forgotten that. There was a pause. "I want to pay you back." His brow lifted. "For what?" "For the formula. For the kindness. For not ignoring me." "I'll figure it out." Grayson's jaw clenched slightly. She didn't ask for more, didn't hint at needing a job or rent. She was still holding her pride with both hands, even while drowning. He respected that more than he anticipated. He sent one more message. "Tell me what kind of formula Micah needs. I want to send more. Not money. Supplies." Asha hesitated. "Only if it's really no strings." "I don't do strings," he replied. "Strings are for people playing games." The next morning, Asha woke to a knock on the door. Her heart stopped. No one ever knocked. The landlord texted, and her neighbors barely made eye contact. She pulled on a hoodie, walked quietly to the door, and peeked through the peephole. A delivery driver was holding 4 massive boxes. "What on earth?" She opened the door slowly. "Delivery for Asha Brooks?" he asked. She nodded mutely. "Signature here," she signed, then opened the boxes one by one on her living room floor, her hands trembling. Formula, diapers, baby wipes, bottles, organic puree packets, even clothes. Not cheap, off-brand stuff either, but the kind of soft, beautiful things you only saw on Instagram mothers with perfect lighting. At the very bottom of one box was a small envelope. She opened it slowly. He should have what he needs. Micah deserves better than barely getting by. Grayson. There was no logo, no return address, just a signature she didn't recognize from a man she hadn't seen. But she felt it in her chest, a strange, uncertain warmth that was part gratitude, part suspicion. Who was this man, and what did he really want? Asha didn't touch the boxes again for hours. They sat in the corner like a dream she was afraid to wake from. Micah had fallen asleep in her arms after a warm bottle, his first full one in days, and she hadn't moved. She just sat there, watching his tiny chest rise and fall, wondering what kind of world she had just stepped into. She wasn't naive. As a black woman, she knew people didn't do things like this without a catch, not without a camera rolling for some viral video. But there was no video, no receipt, just silence and that name again. Grayson. She reached for her phone and opened a browser. She didn't want to know, but she had to. She typed Grayson Wolf. The results loaded faster than she was ready for. Grayson Wolf, CEO of Helix Core Industries. Net worth, $118 billion US. Private tech mogul, former military, media shy. Widowed. No children. Her stomach flipped. This wasn't just some generous stranger. This was him. The white billionaire who owned half the patents in AI medicine. The one reporters called the ghost mogul because he avoided interviews like the plague. There were only 3 official photos of him online, all of them serious, unsmiling. One showed him walking out a Senate hearing with cold eyes and a clenched jaw. The man didn't just live in another world. He built it. So why was he texting her? Why did he send $5,000 and a mountain of baby supplies to a woman with no job, no car, and a leaky roof? Asha's hands shook slightly as she clicked back to their message thread. She stared at his last text. Micah deserves better than barely getting by. It didn't sound like a billionaire. It sounded like someone who'd been close to starving and never forgot it. She typed, hesitated, then hit send. Why are you really doing this? He didn't answer right away. She waited 10 minutes, then 20. Her heart sank. Maybe he regretted it. Maybe he realized she wasn't worth the trouble. Her phone finally lit up. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you can't save. And because no child should ever feel that kind of pain, she stared at those words, stunned. They weren't transactional or poetic. They were just true, and they hurt. I don't want your pity, she replied. It's not pity, he said. It's recognition. Asha leaned her head against the wall and closed her eyes. After a beat of silence, her phone buzzed again. Do you work? That question hit like a jab. She almost didn't respond. I did, until Micah. And the company folded. And the daycare I could afford shut down. So no, not right now. What was your field? Biochem research. Mostly diagnostics. I interned at Novagen before things got complicated, yeah, but I also know how to scrub toilets, make lattes, and calculate taxes I can't afford to pay, she added, a flash of her old defiance breaking through. She didn't expect a reply to that, but he surprised her. Come by Helix Core tomorrow. 11 a.m. Ask for Natalie. No strings. Just a conversation. Asha blinked. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance to take one back. Asha hadn't been inside a downtown office tower in almost 2 years. The last time she'd walked into a corporate lobby, she was wearing heels that blistered her toes and a badge that said, temporary contractor. Today, she wore her cleanest jeans, a thrifted blouse, and a blazer she hadn't zipped since before her pregnancy. She tightened her grip on Micah's carrier and stepped through the rotating glass doors. The Helix Core lobby was nothing like she expected. No marble, no ego, just clean lines, high ceilings, and a quiet efficiency that made her feel instantly underdressed. The receptionist looked up as she approached. Ima Shabrooks. I'm here to see Natalie. The woman's face lit up with immediate recognition, which unsettled Asha more than she cared to admit. Of course. You're expected. 37th floor. Miss Cho will meet you at the elevator. Asha blinked. Expected? She followed the path to the elevator, her eyes darting to the logos on the wall, the awards behind glass, the silent but busy energy of the place. This wasn't a startup pretending to be important. This was important. By the time the elevator doors slid open on the top floor, her heart was pounding. A sleek Asian woman in her mid-40s with a tablet in hand greeted her with a warm but professional smile. Asha, I'm Natalie Cho, Chief of Staff to Mr. Wolf. He's in meetings at the moment, but he asked me to give you a tour and answer any questions. Asha followed her through a hallway lined with glass offices and subtle security cameras. I'm not sure what this is, Asha said finally. This whole thing feels like a setup for a punchline, Natalie smiled. Mr. Wolf doesn't do punchlines. He does precision. They stopped at a wide conference room with a view of the skyline. He told me to show you this first, Natalie said, unlocking the door. Inside, it wasn't a workspace. It was a fully furnished nursery. A crib in the corner, a small changing table, soft rugs, toys, even blackout curtains. Asha's hand flew to her mouth. Natalie's voice was soft. He thought it might help you feel more comfortable. Asha stepped inside, heart aching. The room wasn't just expensive, it was thoughtful. Every detail said one thing clearly. Someone had paid attention. She turned back to Natalie. What? Natalie's gaze held hers. Because he knows what it feels like to walk in alone, Asha didn't know what to say. Natalie offered a small smile. Would you like some coffee? 20 minutes later, Asha sat in a smaller meeting room with a fresh mug in front of her, Micah asleep in the carrier beside her. The door opened quietly, and she looked up just as Grayson walked in. Seeing him in person hit harder than she expected. He looked exactly like the photos, tall, composed, expensive, but somehow more real. Tired eyes, a hint of stubble, a man who had built empires but hadn't smiled in a long time. Asha, he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Thanks for coming. She stood awkwardly, unsure what to do with her hands. I wasn't sure if I should. You came anyway. That's what matters. He sat across from her, resting his forearms on the table. Before we talk about anything else, I want to be clear. You owe me nothing. This isn't a test. I'm not here to rescue you. I don't believe in charity, but I do believe in investing in people. Asha stared at him. Why me? Grayson looked down for a moment, then up. Because I saw someone who didn't ask for a shortcut, who didn't expect anything, who was willing to go without before they let their kids suffer. And someone like that, I'd trust with anything. Asha felt her throat tighten. He slid a folder across the table. Temporary position. 3 months. Finance audit support. Flexible hours. Work on-site or remote. The pay is more than fair. And if it's not a fit, you walk away. No questions. Asha opened the folder and blinked at the number on the offer line. It was more than she made in 6 months at her old job. She looked at him. This is real. It is. She glanced down at Micah, then back at Grayson and the nursery. He smiled, just barely. Also real for a moment. They just sat there in a quiet understanding. Finally, Asha nodded once. I'll take it. Asha showed up on her first official day, wearing the only business casual outfit she hadn't donated during last winter's rent panic. The pants were a little tighter than she remembered, but they buttoned, and that was enough. She wore her hair pulled back, minimal makeup, and slipped into the building with Micah tucked against her chest in a soft gray sling. No one stared. That surprised her. She half expected the side eyes and polite but cold smile she'd grown accustomed to in other corporate environments. But the woman at the reception desk greeted her with a kind, welcome back, as if she'd worked there before. The elevator to the top floor opened the moment she approached. Natalie met her with coffee already in hand. Micah's space is ready, Natalie said, not missing a beat as she walked her down the hallway. And yours is just across the glass. You'll have full access to internal systems. I'll set you up. Let me know if you run into any trouble. Asha blinked. That's it. Natalie smiled. That's it. The office they let her into was modest but sleek. A wide desk, dual monitors, and a chair so ergonomic it felt like cheating. Behind her, a glass partition looked into the nursery. Micah was already cooing at a set of plush blocks on the rug, oblivious to how drastically his world had shifted. Asha sat down slowly, her hands hovering over the keyboard. She hadn't worked in over a year. She hadn't touched an internal audit system since her final project before maternity leave, the one that never got finished because the company folded without warning. But as she opened her inbox, reviewed the file directories, and pulled up the company's audit logs, something familiar stirred. Her brain clicked back into gear. She knew what to look for: baseline deviations, inconsistencies between submitted and verified invoices, patterns of internal transfers that didn't match project activity. It was like brushing off an old instrument and remembering the tune. She worked quietly for over an hour, only stopping when she noticed someone standing outside her office. Grayson. He wasn't wearing a suit today, just a black button-down, sleeves rolled, and slacks that still looked like they belonged in a magazine. "May I?" he asked. She nodded. "It's your company." He stepped inside, glanced through the glass at Micah, then turned to her screen. "Settling in okay?" "I haven't broken anything yet," she said. "Give it time." He smirked before catching himself. He looked at the monitor. "You're already in the reconciliations folder. I figured I'd start with the third quarter reports. There are a few inconsistencies in vendor payouts that don't match project records." Grayson tilted his head. "You found that already?" She shrugged. "They're not well hidden." His expression changed. Not surprised, but something more thoughtful. "Anything feel off to you?" he asked. Asha hesitated. "I've only been in the system an hour, but yeah, either someone's rounding in ways that make no sense, or someone's hiding something in the noise." Grayson's jaw tightened just slightly. "You don't have to dig deep yet. Start surface level, right?" Asha said. "Except I don't do surface level," he nodded once. "Neither do I." Then he turned and walked out. That afternoon, Natalie brought her lunch without asking. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, iced tea. Asha was mid-bite when a ping came in through the internal messenger. "Keep this just between us. If you find something that doesn't look right, bring it directly to me. No one else." Not even Natalie understood. Asha typed back. She stared at the screen. "You expect me to find something? I expect you to see things others won't." She sat back in her chair and looked through the glass at Micah. He was curled up asleep, a tiny stuffed fox tucked under his chin. The sun lit up the soft edges of his coily hair, and for the first time in months, Asha didn't feel like she was running behind the world. She was catching up, or maybe finally stepping into the right place. By her second week at Helix Core, Asha had built a rhythm. Mornings started with black coffee, a kiss to Micah's forehead, and a silent promise to stay ahead of whatever curveball life had cued next. She arrived early, usually before Natalie, sometimes even before Grayson, and always checked on Micah first. He had adjusted to the nursery faster than she had to her office. Every day, she'd find him nestled in a corner with a rotating cast of plush animals and an endless supply of organic snacks. Asha, on the other hand, was deep in spreadsheets, audit logs, and data trails. She didn't treat this job like a lifeline. She treated it like a mission. It was the only way she knew how to work, with precision, with care, and with the kind of focus that blocked out everything else. By Friday afternoon, she found it. It wasn't a smoking gun, it never was. But there was a pattern. The same vendor name, repeated just enough. The amounts varied, always under internal audit thresholds, but they all shared a strange trait. They were tied to non-existent project codes. Asha leaned closer to her screen, double-checking. The vendor didn't match any real division, and yet the payments had been processed, approved, and quietly buried under a dozen legitimate transactions. $1,200 here, $2,400 there, never enough to set off alerts, but over the course of a fiscal quarter, they added up. Asha copied the vendor code into a private folder and began cross-referencing. The payments weren't going to any standard operating account. They were routed through a third-party holding company in Delaware. Asha recognized the structure instantly. It was a shell, legal on paper, untouchable without higher-level access. Her stomach tightened. Someone inside Helix Core was siphoning funds, slowly, strategically, and they were good at hiding it. Too good. She didn't call Natalie. She didn't loop in finance. She remembered Grayson's message clearly. Bring it directly to me. No one else. Asha copied the files to a flash drive, encrypted the folder, and slipped it into her bag. Then she messaged him. I need 5 minutes. It's important. Grayson's office looked out over half the city. The windows stretched from floor to ceiling, but the curtains were drawn. His desk was surprisingly bare. A single tablet, a leather notepad, a framed photo turned slightly toward the wall. He glanced up when she stepped in. You found something? He said, not asked. Asha nodded and handed him the drive. It's not confirmed, but it's enough to raise questions. He plugged the drive into the side of his monitor and scrolled. She watched his expression shift, slightly at first, then deeper, more concentrated. You pulled this from Q3? Yes, but it spans earlier quarters. The vendor doesn't exist. The payments route through a shell account in Delaware. Masked under smaller invoices, Grayson leaned back, exhaling through his nose. You're right. It's clean. Too clean. Which means whoever did it knows the system, Grayson said. Knows it well. Probably helped design the controls. Asha crossed her arms. You already suspected something. He looked at her. I've been watching the numbers drift since late last year, but I couldn't get anyone in finance to chase it. Too subtle, too easy to explain away, so why not bring in an outside firm? He hesitated. I don't know who I can trust. Asha felt that settle in her chest like a weight. She understood that kind of isolation, the kind that came after losing too much and trusting too fast. It hollowed you out, made you second-guess everything and everyone. So what now? She asked. I want you to keep going, Grayson said. Keep digging, but quietly. No names, no email trails. And if anyone asks, you're still reconciling back-end billing records. Asha tilted her head. You're asking me to investigate your own company. I'm asking you to find the truth, she held his gaze. And if I find something ugly, Grayson didn't blink. Then we deal with it. That night, Asha lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Micah curled against her side. She replayed the conversation in her head, trying to shake the unease. She wasn't afraid of digging or what she might find. What worried her was what she'd already seen in Grayson's face. He already knew. He just didn't want to admit it. The next morning, Asha woke before her alarm, not to Micah's cries, but to silence. The kind of silence that felt heavy. She checked his crib. Still asleep, arms overhead, his lips pursed into a tiny frown as if he were negotiating with his dreams. Asha brushed her teeth in the kitchen sink. Her bathroom faucet had started leaking again, but she hadn't called maintenance. She didn't want strangers in her space, not now. By 7:30 a.m., she was at her desk on the 37th floor, reviewing the vendor logs again. This time, she dug deeper. The shell company receiving the siphoned funds had a name, Trinox Solutions, LLC. It meant nothing, but when she ran the tax ID through an open business registry, the address pinged back to a downtown mailbox drop and listed a single executive agent, a firm that specialized in anonymity. Asha sat back, fingers tightening around her coffee mug. This wasn't lazy embezzlement. Whoever was behind this had designed it to run unnoticed for years. It wasn't just greed, it was planned extraction. At 9:06 a.m., Grayson walked into her office without knocking. "Trinox," she said before he could sit. He raised an eyebrow. "You found it. It's a holding shell. No employees, registered through a legal blind. I traced 4 separate payments this month, routed through different department budgets, all under compliance thresholds. It's sophisticated, precise," Grayson said. He looked tired again, like he hadn't slept. His tie was crooked. "I need you to keep this on your machine only," he said. "No backups, no external transfers." Asha nodded, then leaned forward slightly. "Grayson, how long have you suspected this?" He looked at her, jaw set. "Long enough to know whoever's behind it doesn't care about the company or the people working here. You think it's someone close to you?" "I know it is." Asha hesitated. "Why haven't you gone to the board?" "Because at least 2 of them are compromised. They've already shut down one internal audit. If I make the wrong move, it blows up." Asha's throat tightened. "So why me?" Grayson finally sat down across from her. "Because you don't owe anyone here anything. And you don't scare easy." The way he said it wasn't flattery. It was truth. It felt like someone had finally seen her. Not just the mother, not just the woman trying to survive, but her, the sharp, quiet force she used to be before life knocked her down hard enough to leave marks. "I want to show you something," Grayson said. He pulled a folder from his coat and slid it across the table. She opened it. A face stared back at her. A white man, mid-40s, clean-cut, sharp suit, neutral smile. "Elliot Crane," Grayson said. "Chief Financial Officer." Asha froze. "I've heard the name. Isn't he?" "He was hired 2 years ago, after the last CFO resigned unexpectedly. He pushed through changes to our internal systems, gave his own team exclusive oversight over certain divisions, and quietly removed several cross-check protocols. Nobody blinked because he did it under the umbrella of streamlining compliance." Asha closed the folder. "You think he's behind it?" "I know he is. But proving it, that's the hard part. You want me to find the crack?" "Exactly." Asha nodded slowly. "And when I do, then we move." He stood to leave but paused in the doorway. "By the way, Micah has fans in the nursery." She blinked. "What?" "He gave my assistant a lecture yesterday when she tried to take his giraffe. It was 4 babbled syllables and a death stare." Asha laughed before she could stop herself. Grayson smiled, a small, worn thing, and then he was gone. That afternoon, Asha worked through lunch. She ran more matches, cross-referenced internal memos. She found one email chain where Elliot's assistant requested override access to procurement logs under the guise of executive audit preparation. The date matched the first recorded transfer to Trinox. She copied it, encrypted it, and added it to a growing folder labeled Proof. By 5 p.m., her eyes burned. She stretched, walked into the nursery, and sank into the soft armchair beside Micah's crib. He was napping again, his thumb in his mouth, his other hand still gripping the tail of the toy giraffe like a weapon. Asha rested her head against the back of the chair. It was quiet, safe. She hadn't felt that way in a long time, and that scared her more than anything else. Asha had never trusted silence anymore. Not in the nursery, not in an elevator, and definitely not inside corporate systems built to hide the truth. Silence usually meant someone was hiding something. By Monday morning, she had documented 15 payments tied to Trinox Solutions, each routed through a different department, each signed off by a different lower-level approver. Whoever set it up had built a machine, not a mistake. But Asha wasn't hunting mistakes. She was chasing patterns, and this one had fingerprints. She waited until Micah was fed and settled before stepping into Grayson's office. She didn't knock. He'd stopped expecting her to. He was at his desk reading a contract, but the moment he saw her face, he pushed it aside. "You found more, yes. And I think I figured out how they're hiding it." She handed him a printed report, each page tagged. "I cross-checked every account routed through Trinox with employee IDs. The payment approvals all come from different logins, but the access point, every single time, is the same device ID, which means someone's using ghost credentials," Grayson finished. "Either duplicating or hijacking existing users to sign off," Asha nodded. "They're not forging data, they're borrowing real logins. That's why your auditors missed it. Everything checks out at the surface, except it's all a lie," he said quietly. She watched his face carefully. There was no panic, just the stillness of someone adding a final piece to a puzzle he never wanted to see completed. "What do you want to do next?" she asked. Grayson leaned back in his chair. "We need confirmation. Evidence that can't be rewritten or deleted. Someone inside has to know more than they've admitted. And I know where to start." He picked up his phone and dialed. "Natalie, I need Elliot Crane scheduled for a check-in tomorrow. Keep it casual, mid-morning. Just me and him." Asha stiffened. "You're bringing him here? If we spook him, he shuts it all down. If we wait too long, he finds a way to make us the story." He looked at her. "You okay with that? I'm the one who walked into the fire. I'm not backing out now." He didn't smile, but something in his eyes softened. "You know," he said, "most people in your position would have taken the paycheck and played it safe." Asha raised her eyebrows. "Yeah, well, I stopped being most people today. I handed a bottle of watered-down formula to my son and pretended it was enough." That night, Asha couldn't sleep. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, poring over backup logs of Helix Core's internal messaging system. She knew she was getting close, and close was dangerous. She'd seen enough stories. Whistleblowers shut out, data wiped, good people discredited by people more powerful than they'd ever be. And yet, she wasn't afraid of that. She was afraid of failing Micah, of letting someone like Elliot Crane take money that could have gone to research, to employees, to single moms like her who didn't get secret phone calls for billionaires. midnight, her phone buzzed. "Still awake?" "Obviously. You should sleep. You should follow your own advice. We're going to get him. But when we do, things are going to get noisy. I want you ready." "I'm always ready. I just never had backup before." There was no reply, but a few seconds later, a single message came through. "You do now." The meeting was set for 10 a.m. sharp. Asha sat at her desk, her stomach in a slow churn. Micah was napping peacefully in the nursery behind her, completely unaware. Grayson had told her to stay in her office, but to monitor the security feed. She pulled it up on her second monitor, adjusted the angle to the conference room one floor below, and waited. It felt strange being in the room, but not in the room. At exactly 10 a.m., the door opened. Elliot Crane, a white man with the easy confidence of someone who believed the world owed him something, walked in. He wore a navy blue suit, tailored perfectly. Grayson was already seated. There was no handshake. Asha leaned closer. "Appreciate you making time," Grayson said, his voice steady. "Of course," Elliot replied smoothly. "I always make time for the boss." Asha studied his face. She'd seen that expression before, in job interviews, in boardrooms. It was the look of someone who already believed they were 3 moves ahead. "I've been reviewing some of the quarterly financials," Grayson said, "and I've noticed a few oddities." Elliot tilted his head. "We've streamlined quite a bit this year. Maybe too fast. That's on me." "Growing pains. Streamlined is one word for it," Grayson nodded. "There's a vendor," he continued. "Trinox Solutions. You're familiar?" Elliot barely blinked. "Doesn't ring a bell. Is that facilities or security?" "Apparently both. And also research and legal. Interesting for a company no one can seem to contact directly." Elliot smiled thinly. "I'll have my team look into it," he offered. "You are your team," Grayson said. "You approve those payments." For the first time, Elliot didn't respond right away. Grayson leaned forward. "I know what you've been doing. I have the logs, device IDs, login footprints, shell account structures. You've been moving money through dummy vendors and distributing it through ghost pipelines. And you thought no one would notice." Elliot's mouth twitched. Asha couldn't tell if it was irritation or amusement. "You've been listening to your new pet accountant a little too closely," he said. Asha's stomach dropped. He knew. Grayson didn't flinch. "Her name is Asha, and she saw what you were hoping everyone else would ignore." Elliot laughed quietly. "And let me guess, you two have been bonding late at night over spreadsheets and baby bottles." Asha's pulse spiked. Her hands curled into fists under the desk. Grayson's voice dropped, calm and controlled. "You're done." "Elliot, no," Elliot said, his smile returning. "You're done." The words hung in the air like a switchblade. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive, setting it on the table. "You think you're the only one who's been collecting data? Come on, Grayson, you're not that naive. The board's tired of your secret projects and PR disasters. They're tired of your moods, your grief. You made the company vulnerable. I just helped it survive." Asha leaned closer to the screen, breath caught. Grayson's jaw tightened. "What's on the drive?" "Emails, messages, financials that look like mismanagement. That suggest you've been diverting funds to cover personal liabilities. Which, by the way, we both know you haven't, but perception matters more than truth when you're on the chopping block, and you're giving it to me because I'm not. I'm warning you. You've got until Friday to resign quietly. I've already spoken to 2 board members. They'll back me. Walk away, and I won't bring Asha into this. She gets a nice severance and a silent exit. Everyone wins." Asha sat frozen. Grayson stared at him, then quietly said, "You underestimate me." "No," Elliot said as he stood, buttoning his jacket. "I understand you better than anyone else in this building. You built something great, but you're too human now. And human doesn't survive here." He walked out without waiting for a response. Asha closed the feed and leaned back. Her heart was racing, her face hot. All she could think was one thing. They were at war now, and Elliot Crane played dirty. Grayson didn't return to his office. For 2 hours, Asha stared at the closed conference room feed, but there was nothing left to see. She couldn't sit still anymore. She printed out her report, the one with every documented transfer, every ghost approval, every shell account tied to Trinox. Then she walked down the hallway and entered Grayson's office without knocking. He was there, back to her, standing at the window with the blinds drawn halfway, watching the city. He didn't turn when she spoke. "I saw everything." Grayson didn't flinch, his voice low. "You weren't supposed to." Asha walked closer. "You really think I'd just sit at my desk and not watch what happened?" He turned then, his face unreadable. "I told you this would get ugly. You didn't say he'd try to destroy you." Grayson looked tired in a way she hadn't seen before, the weariness of someone who had finally confirmed their worst fears. "He has the board, then take the fight public and put the company at risk? The thousands of people who rely on it? If I move too soon, he spins it. I look like the unstable billionaire clinging to control. You look like the woman I manipulated to cover my own mistakes." Asha's throat tightened. "Then we find proof he can't spin." Grayson studied her face. "You're still in?" "I was in a moment. I figured out the math didn't add up." He stepped forward, picked up the report, and flipped through it. When he finished, he looked up. "I have one last card to play. It's not guaranteed to work, and it's risky to find risky. I've been working with someone off the books. Former FBI, forensic accountant. She's helped me track internal corruption quietly. But if we bring her in now, it won't stay quiet. And you trust her with the truth?" "Yes." "Then bring her in." Grayson hesitated. "This only works if we all play our part. She'll need full access to the logs, everything you found. And if Elliot catches even a whiff of what we're doing, he'll come after you." Asha didn't blink. "Let him try." That night, the safe house wasn't a contingency plan. It was real. Grayson handed her an access code to a private residence owned under a subsidiary, located in a quiet part of the city, already stocked. She packed lightly, clothes for her and Micah, the laptop, the flash drives, the report. Micah fussed as she moved him into his carrier, but settled against her chest. The apartment was small but clean, safe, quiet. Asha set Micah down in the portable crib, then sank onto the couch. A message came through from Grayson. "Her name is Keller. She'll call you in 10 minutes. Pick up. Don't tell her anything you can't prove. She's sharp, but she tests people." Asha replied with one word. "Ready." 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Ms. Brooks. The voice on the other end was crisp, female, all business. Yes, this is Keller. Grayson tells me you're the one who found the break in the flow. I'm the one who noticed. He's the one who knew something was wrong. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Leave nothing out. Asha took a breath and started talking. She told her everything, from the wrong number text to this very moment. When she finished, Keller was silent. Then, you're good. Better than most auditors I've worked with. And if even half of what you've told me is supported by the files Grayson sent me, we have enough to not only bury Elliot, but pull apart everyone protecting him. So what happens next? We verify. Then we bait the trap. Asha was running on adrenaline and black coffee. It had been 36 hours since Elliot's threat and less than 12 since her call with Keller. It was time to draw Elliot out. Keller had a plan, and it started with a leak. That morning, Asha received a file-marked draft memo, internal realignment, supposedly from HR. It stated that due to upcoming compliance evaluations, there would be an internal audit review of all executive-level vendor contracts. The memo wasn't real. It was bait, loaded into the Helix core system under a path Elliot's assistant had access to. Then they waited. Grayson stayed moving, checking with Keller, pressing his remaining allies on the board to stall any vote of no confidence. Natalie, quiet but loyal, worked 2 phones, pretending nothing had changed. Asha stayed off company messaging, logging in only through VPN from the safe house. By noon, Keller sent a message. We got a ping. Memo was accessed 3 times in 2 hours. Twice from Elliot's team, once from Elliot's own login. He knows. Asha stared at the screen. What's he going to do? We're about to find out. 3 hours later, Grayson called, his voice quiet but urgent. He's making his move. What did he do? He submitted an emergency ethics complaint to the board. Claimed I bypassed finance, moved funds into personal accounts to bribe an external hire. Asha's chest tightened. He actually named her. He wants you gone first. It's his pattern. Isolate, discredit, remove. He's betting the board won't question it if it comes from internal concern. She sat down hard on the arm of the couch. And will they? Some might, but not all. Not if we go first. Grayson paused. You ready to do this publicly? Asha looked at Micah asleep in his crib. She thought about the nights without power, the watered-down formula, the kindness of a stranger that was never really about charity, but about belief. I've never been more ready. The press release hit at 6:43 p.m. Helix Core investigates high-level financial misconduct. It was short, precise, approved by legal. It didn't name Elliot Crane directly, but referenced forensic irregularities and misappropriation of vendor payments. The same minute it went live, Keller's team handed their findings to the state attorney's office, 38 pages of documentation that led directly back to Elliot Crane. It was over. Almost. At 8:05 p.m., Asha's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Impressive, Elliot said. I underestimated you. Asha didn't speak. I wanted to destroy Grayson. You were just a name on a report. An accident. And somehow you became a problem. Funny. Asha said, her voice steady. That's how most women in power get noticed. By becoming inconvenient. Elliot laughed, a dry sound. You think this ends here? I know it does. He paused. You won't win, Asha. Grayson may crawl out of this, but you're disposable. Always have been. She hung up. She didn't need to hear the rest. That night, Asha watched the news in silence, Micah sleeping beside her. Grayson hadn't texted again, not yet. She knew he was somewhere, bracing. But she felt calm. She knew what was coming, and this time, she wasn't afraid. By morning, everything was different. She felt in the way her phone buzzed with back-to-back missed calls and in the encrypted, read-only messages from Keller. The Helix Core press release had gone viral. One article mentioned a single mother with a background in forensic accounting who had uncovered the breach. They didn't name her, but they would. Natalie texted at 8:02 a.m. Be ready. He's coming for a final meeting. Private. 9 a.m. Top floor. Just him and Grayson. Asha stared at the message. Should I be there? Grayson says no. I say yes. Stay back, but don't leave. Asha dressed carefully and slipped into the building through a secondary entrance. She took the private elevator to the nursery suite where Micah was already waiting. At 9:01 a.m., she opened her laptop and pulled up the live internal feed. The conference room was silent. Grayson sat at the end of the table, calm. Elliot entered a moment later, his expression blank. "Let's save each other the posturing," Elliot said. "I know what this is, then you know why you're here," Grayson replied. "I'm here because you'd rather burn the company to the ground than let someone else fix it. You didn't fix it. You hijacked it. You bled it dry. I kept it alive when you were too consumed by grief to lead." Asha felt her stomach twist. It wasn't the insult. It was how calm, how rehearsed he sounded. "You built your whole career off other people's blind spots," Grayson said. "You targeted me because you knew I was distracted. But you didn't count on someone else watching." Elliot leaned forward. "You mean her? The woman you plucked from poverty and handed a desk like some redemption project? You think anyone will believe her over me?" "I don't need them to believe her," Grayson said. "I have the data. I have the paper trail. I have federal agents who signed off on every piece of it. She didn't just notice, she proved it." Asha didn't move. Micah's soft humming behind her was an anchor. Vincent stood. "This is a mistake." "No," Grayson said, rising slowly. "The mistake was thinking you were untouchable." Natalie stepped into the frame, calm as ever. "Gentlemen, I believe you've both said what you needed to. Security will escort Mr. Crane out. His badge has already been deactivated." Elliot's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, Asha saw something break in his expression. He turned without another word and left. By 10:14 a.m., it was officially over. Elliot Crane was placed on leave, pending investigation. The board, blindsided, voted unanimously to suspend all finance operations related to his tenure. Keller's team had everything they needed. Asha stood at the nursery window, arms crossed, watching the city exhale. A quiet knock made her turn. Grayson. He looked like he hadn't slept, but he was smiling just barely. "You were right," he said. "About? You don't scare easy." She shook her head. "Neither do you." He stepped inside. Micah spotted him and toddled over, hands raised, a wide grin on his face. Without hesitation, Grayson scooped him up. "How's my partner in crime?" he asked. Micah babbled something unintelligible but enthusiastic. "I want you to take tomorrow off," Grayson said to Asha. "Rest. Spend time with him. You've earned it. And the day after tomorrow." He looked at her. "I want to offer you something permanent. Head of internal audit. Full autonomy. Direct report to me. Build your own team. Set your own rules." Asha stared at him. "That's a big job. So, is what you just did?" She didn't answer right away, but the answer was already forming. The next morning, Asha didn't wake to an alarm. She woke to sunlight bleeding through the cheap blinds in the safe house bedroom and the steady rise and fall of Micah's breathing beside her. For the first time in months, her body didn't tense. By the time she made coffee, her phone was buzzing. Elliot Crane's face was plastered across headlines. Her name hadn't been used, but her inbox was filling up with interview requests and one strange email from a publisher asking if she was considering a memoir. She wasn't. She didn't want a spotlight. She just wanted her life back. Or maybe for the first time, to build a new one. At noon, Grayson called. "You holding up?" he asked. "I'm okay. Just weird being the center of a storm. You didn't choose. You did choose it," Grayson said. "You just didn't realize it until after you were in it," she smiled. "I guess that's true." There was a pause, and then he spoke again, more carefully. "I wasn't going to say this over the phone, but I think I'd regret not saying it at all." Asha's breath caught. "I don't know what happens next for the company for me, but I know I trust you. And I don't say that easily." She sat down slowly. "I trust you too," she said, more than I ever expected. To another, longer pause. "I'd like to see you," he said. "If you're up for it." Asha glanced at Micah, who was trying to stack plastic cups into a tower that immediately collapsed. "I think we're ready to come back." The reunion wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Asha stepped into the Helix Core lobby, carrying Micah. A few employees nodded, but no one stared. Natalie greeted her with a warm smile and handed her a badge with her new title already printed. Asha Brooks, Director, Internal Audit. As the elevator doors closed, Asha turned slightly. "Does he know I'm coming up?" "He's been watching the time since 7 a.m. Natalie said with a small grin. Grayson was standing at the window again when she entered his office. He turned as she stepped in. No tie today, shirt sleeves rolled, eyes tired but brighter. You came back, he said. I wasn't gone, she answered. He looked at Micah, who reached his arms out toward him immediately. Grayson stepped forward, picked him up, and held him without hesitation. Asha watched, something deep in her chest tightening and loosening at the same time. You kept your promise, she said. He glanced at her. Which one? All of them, he nodded, then offered a quiet, sincere reply. Let's make some new ones. 3 weeks later, Asha found herself walking into a boardroom as the lead. She was the woman who exposed a multi-million-dollar fraud, helped save one of the most valuable tech firms in the country, and did it while raising a baby on her own. The board meeting was short. This is the internal compliance framework moving forward, Asha said, clicking through a clean, minimal slide deck. Transparent, decentralized, triple audited. No one, not even the CEO, can bypass it without leaving a trail. She didn't look at Grayson, but she felt him watching. Afterward, a senior board member stopped her. You did something rare, he said. You did your job, so well it made the rest of us look sloppy, Asha smiled. I wasn't trying to look good, she replied. I was trying to keep my kids safe, the man nodded. That's even rarer. That night, she stayed late, running final checks. She was reviewing a vendor log when a familiar voice spoke. Shouldn't you be home by now? Asha looked up. Grayson leaned against the doorway, coffee in one hand. He wasn't in CEO mode. He was just him. You told me to build the system, Asha said. I'm building it. He walked in and set the coffee down. Come on, he said. Let's get out of here and go where? Anywhere you want. They didn't go far, just outside to a quiet street where the city felt a little less like a machine. They walked in silence for a while. Asha was the first to break it. Do you ever think about how weird this all is? Grayson gave a half smile. Which part? Me. You. This whole thing's starting because I typed a number wrong. I don't think that was weird, he said. She looked over. I think it was the first right thing that happened in a long time. Asha exhaled, and for once didn't argue. Asha stood in front of the mirror in her new apartment, buttoning the last clasp on a simple silver necklace. Micah was on the floor, applesauce smeared across his chin like war paint. Asha smiled as she wiped his face. She didn't recognize this version of her life, not because it was perfect, but because it felt like hers. Her name was on the lease. Her bank account didn't give her anxiety. Later that night, when Micah was asleep, her laptop pinged. Her inbox had one unread message from a private internal account Grayson had created just for them. No subject, just one file attachment. She clicked it. Inside was a screenshot of her very first text. Ben, I'm so sorry to bother you again. I need $50 for formula. And below it, his reply, I think you have the wrong number. Grayson had titled the file The Accident That Wasn't a Message appeared from him. Thought you might want to keep that. So you never forget what it took to find your way here, Asha typed back. You still think it wasn't an accident? I think the universe is better at hiring people than HR. She laughed, letting the warmth of the moment settle in her chest. After a few seconds, she typed one more message. You ever think about what happens next? Every day she waited. Then it came. I'd like you and Micah in my life. Permanently. Not just as a team, not just as co-workers. As mine. If you're ready, she read it twice. Not because she doubted him, but because she never let herself picture the possibility this clearly. Then she smiled and replied, Ask me again in person. A minute later, her doorbell rang.